What are the best batteries for FPV? Asks Boss94. I have the answer for you. Today, we are in a unique position. Very seldom in the world of FPV is it possible to say, without reservation, this is the best product in a given category. There's usually a lot of prevarication back and forth, well, if this, then that. And today, in the world of batteries, there is a best battery. And I'm going to show you what it is. I'm not making this up. These batteries from SMC are the best. Okay? And I know that.
Hi there.
Thanks to Chris Rosser, who did some testing. Wow, that is not a complimentary. There we go. Chris Rosser did some testing. And you can go check out his video if you want. I am so glad that I sent, a lot of you don't know this, but years ago, I bought a battery test machine, and I was doing battery testing. And long story short, Chris Rosser got into the testing world and is a real engineer and is better at it than me and also has more time and energy for it. And I was like, I sent him my battery test machine. Technically, it's on loan, but I probably will never get it back because he's doing amazing work, and the world is just better that he has the machine instead of sitting in my basement not being used. He tested these batteries, and they are insanely good. Now, you can watch the whole video, but you see these two lines up here? That's the SMC batteries. They held voltage much higher and for much longer than all of the other packs. Right? Oh, well, that probably is just because they're extra heavy and they're lying about their energy density or their weight. Nope. They're actually, the 1400 is 212 grams compared to the Dogcom 1380, 225 grams. Compared to the Tattoo 1400, 228 grams. The 1600 SMC is 240 grams. Compared to a 1550 Tattoo, 255 grams. They're lighter, milliamp hour for milliamp hour, than the other packs that are comparable to them. They perform better, not by a little, but by a huge margin. They have better peak power. They have better constant power. They have better everything. They're better in every way. And even Chris Rosser, first of all, he's an engineer. And second of all, he's English. And the English are famous for their reserved, if an English person says something sort of vaguely nice, that's like an American freaking out. So for Chris Rosser to be like, I can't believe how good these are. They're so good. They're ridiculously good. They just beat everything in every category. So, and here's the beautiful thing. Where do I buy them? FPV racing packs from Rotor Village. Available. Click here for third-party testing. Can I just buy them right here from SMC? There we go. Here's the other thing. They're not even that expensive. Like, they're not the cheapest. But if you compare them to like a Tattoo R-Line V5, which they beat in every category. Tattoo R-Line V5, 6S, come on. 1800 mAh, 1480 mAh, $40. Okay, so they're the same price. Fine, they're the same price, $40. But better. All right. So, I've got some coming. I'm going to test them out as well, although given Chris Rosser's results, I know what the results will be. There's only one thing I want you to know if you buy these batteries, which you totally should. Look at the voltage. Do you see that all these other batteries, they have this long plateau, and then they drop off a cliff. And do you see that the voltage where they drop off a cliff, let's say it's roughly 21 volts. Okay, so 21 divided by 6S is 3.5 volts. They roughly drop off a cliff at 3.5 volts. But the SMCs hold much higher voltage until eventually they drop off a cliff at a little under 22 volts. Let's say 21.7 volts. And that's 3.6. So not that much different. But also, they have a steeper drop-off. I've talked to guys who've flown these batteries, and they say you have to be careful because you're used to waiting until you see like 3.5, 3.4 volts, and then you come in and land. But these batteries will hold 3.6 volts, 3.6 volts, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, 3.6, and then drop off a cliff. And so they'll surprise you with, you have to be aware that they'll drop off a steeper cliff because they're holding voltage higher. This is a good thing, but they will surprise you at the end of the pack, and you'll kill the battery without meaning to. So that's the only catch with these batteries.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, for sure.
Why, is there any way that they have great performance on the bench at 15C, but not in the air at 100C?
No, is the short answer. Now,
okay,
because, and obviously the real world is a complicated thing, so it's hard to make universal statements. But in general, no, because the performance at 15C is a battery's C rating is essentially proportional to its internal resistance. There's more to it, but the things that make a battery hold voltage at 15C are going to make it hold voltage at 100C until you hit a point where you get thermal breakdown. So in theory, you could have a battery with very low C rating, but then it has it's very sensitive to overheating. And if you run it really hard to the point where it overheats, then it has physical damage, it breaks down, and then so at 100C it destroys itself, but at 15C it's fine. Like, as long as you're staying, I would say, as long as you're staying below the threshold where you're damaging the battery due to basically thermal breakdown, I think you're probably fine. As long as you're staying above 3.0 volts or whatever the chemistry's minimum threshold is. And it's tricky because, like, obviously we want real world testing, but discharging at 100C, like that requires big machines that can dissipate a shitload of heat, and it's just not something that's accessible to the average. Even like like Chris Rosser's test machine has 2,000 watts continuous and 3,000 watt peak capability. It has gigantic heat sinks with fans blowing on them, and it costs $4,000. So it costs $4,000 to have a 2 kilowatt discharge load. 2 kilowatts is not that much. 2 kilowatts, 2,000 divided by, let's say, 25 volts, that's 80 amps. 80 amps at 6S voltage. And that's so, like, you have to do the testing at a lower C rate and extrapolate upwards. In my experience, I've done some testing of whether the results extrapolate to higher, and they always do. A battery that performs well at 10C always, in my experience, performs better at 50C or 100C, although 100C tests are very difficult to do. So, yeah, good question. Anyway, if you're shopping for batteries, two things. Number one, if you absolutely need like a $20 pack, then don't buy the SMCs. The SMCs are a $40 pack, which is fairly premium, although I've seen 6S 1500, 6S, whatever, that class of pack, I've seen them selling for $45 or $50. So it's not the most expensive, but it's not the cheapest either. And the other thing is, if you're trying to do long range, then you will be better served with a high density lithium ion pack, you know, something like this. That's going to have lower C rating, but much higher energy density. But if you're doing high power discharge, like a freestyle or racing drone, these SMC backs they're just like the best today, hands down, no question. If you're going to spend $40 on a racing or freestyle battery for a 5-inch drone, if you need a 1400 or 1600 5-inch with a high C rating, those SMCs are the best today, period, no question. That's amazing to be able to say that. And it won't last. If you're watching it today, it's February 2025. If you're watching this video in August 2025 or October or November or 2027 or God knows how far into the future it is, somebody else is probably going to find out where SMC is getting these cells, because SMC doesn't make these cells. Somebody else is going to find out where they're getting these cells. They're going to buy the same cells. They're going to sell the same battery. Although it's worth pointing out, SMC is doing it at a very low price for the quality of the cells. So